one going to be?
I'm Andrew Simmons in Nicosia. Cyprus has long had an important geopolitical position in the Mediterranean, but the island has been divided along ethnic lines for decades. We're now in the Republic of Cyprus, recognized by the international community, a member of the European Union since 2004, and governed by Greek Cypriots. But the northern part of the island is recognized by Turkey and controlled by self-declared Northern Cyprus. The island has been in a geopolitical power struggle for most of the past 48 years. The UN established a buffer zone. Its peacekeeping forces patrol a demilitarized area known as the Green Line. But nearly 6 decades later, has the UN failed? Does the island need further assistance from the international community? And how are other regional conflicts, like the Russian invasion of Ukraine, impacting Cyprus? The Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Republic of Cyprus, Ioannis Kasoulides, talks to Al Jazeera. Foreign Minister of the Republic of Cyprus, Ioannis Kasoulides, thanks for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you for having me.
Now, let's start at home. The United Nations Protection Force here in Cyprus. You're not happy with them. You've made a lot of criticisms. You said in the media, intense unease is the way it was described, about how this force was handling its whole mandate in this country. What's wrong?
Well, it's not exactly this our position. First of all, I must say that we are very happy with the presence of the United Nations peacekeeping force in Cyprus. They are very useful in escalating minor incidents, de-escalating minor incidents here and there, which may escalate and we don't know to which dimensions. The recent attitude coincides with the hardening of the positions on the northern part of Cyprus. And the UNFICYP is giving us the impression that they are giving in to very hard demands to our detriment.
What's an example of that, then?
They have recently given authorization to begin works within the buffer zone, right below the Venetian walls of the old town of Nicosia, for preparing for a football field for training by a Turkish Cypriot football team. We are not against this, but what we are against is the details about whether it should be fenced, whether it should not be transparent, because we know that in the case of an event, Turkish tanks will be in a position to arrive to the center of Nicosia in a couple of minutes. This we have to be vigilant.
We've been with the peacekeeping force for a whole day, and they're pretty vigilant, and they are a really important force to actually keep the sides apart in a crisis. Furthermore, it doesn't help that your forces aren't talking to the Northern Cyprus forces at all. There's no communication. The UN have to do it.
I'm sorry. There has been a proposal by the UN of a direct dialogue between our forces and their forces. We have said yes, but the Turkish forces from Turkey, they say they should not speak to the commander of the Turkish forces from Turkey, but to the Turkish Cypriot commander. You understand that this semantic is very important. But I have just proposed something else to end this impasse. I have said they nominate one senior officer, whomever they want. We nominate a senior officer, whomever we want, and they become a focus point between them. And this has not advanced. I don't know
It gives
why.
our viewers an idea of the sort of intricacy of this situation. And of course, the Cypriots, the Turkish Cypriots north, have also got in touch with the UN in New York and demanding a bigger say in how things are organized, particularly with the permission, for example, every 6 months for the UN to actually deploy here.
They demand a SOFA agreement that a recognized state only has the right to do. SOFA agreement is made between recognized states and the UN. This we cannot and never will accept. But I don't think that the UN intends to give them a SOFA agreement. Depends on what they are going to counter-propose.
Well, the Turkish Cypriots are on record as saying they'll reserve their rights on what they do if they are turned down. What do you say to that?
Well, let them take the responsibility about this when they will come and say they don't accept the presence of ANFICYP in Cyprus, which has to operate from both sides. This is a matter for the Security Council to be seized.
Well, let's move on a bit, but look back again. We're in the 21st century. It's 5 years since anything possible in terms of developments and peace has been on the table. And we go back to July, one night after midnight, when everyone was thinking a deal was going to be done. And we saw the UN Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, come out with an ashen face, tired out. Real frustration and anger that the deal wasn't done. Was that down to you as a government?
So was I very frustrated and very disappointed. We have, at that time, came so close to reach a settlement. And I think at the end of the meeting did not reserve to postpone it sine die. What it was needed is, if the schedule of the Secretary General was not permitting it, to be re-invited in a couple of weeks and continue from where we were left. But let me tell you that after this, the Turkish position changed 180 degrees. They have ceased to seek a settlement based on United Nations resolutions, and they have put a precondition now for us to accept separate sovereignty and equal international status before they sit on the table.
We're moving on here, though. We're moving on. But at that time, there was a deal on the table, was there not? And
yes,
your government was not really prepared to go through with it. They had last-minute
thoughts. Where do you base this information?
Well,
where do you base this?
Well, based on diplomatic views on the way it went.
Was the Turkish side ready to accept?
It's negotiations. It's negotiations, is it not? I mean, you as a foreign minister, looking back on it, that was an opportunity to make a groundbreaking decision.
It was a great opportunity, sir.
And there were talks about it happening again.
And I think
talks,
that this
5 years.
Should it had followed suit in the immediate interval after these talks, it would have yielded results, I am sure.
Do you think you can get talking again soon?
If this precondition, which is totally unacceptable, is removed, we can, of course.
But there are talks about talks all over the world, that, you know, to get to a point where there's peace. Surely you could talk. They've got preconditions. You've got preconditions.
But can't you talk about preconditions? Sorry.
But can't
have
you talk
ever
about
seen
talks?
Preconditions? Of course we can talk about talks. We have been asking from the UN to name an envoy of the Secretary General. We started disputing whether it would be a special envoy or a special representative. We said, okay, let's call him an envoy and finish with this details. But they don't accept. They don't accept. The Secretary General decided to send one of the members of his immediate hierarchy of the UN to do this. We are waiting for their visit.
Well, let's move into some more positive territory now, but still related to peace, and that is business and the whole issue of exclusive economic zones, natural gas. Where are we now with things? You've got an agreement with Israel and Egypt as well. And so, what are you doing right now? Are you finding it smooth going?
Well, there have been new discoveries in the exclusive economic zone of Cyprus, and it is in the hands of the international companies, in this case Eni, the Italian company, and Total. They have plans. They have plans to collect all the amounts discovered or to be discovered shortly, and by the form of LNG, send it either to the Egyptian gasification power stations or on an FLNG in situ, and send it to Europe, to the first available power station for regasification, which is most probably Greece. So we are hopeful that in the midterm, that is to say in a couple of years, because Europe urgently needs natural gas, that we'll be able to supply and contribute.
And do you think then that the issue moving on from here of the Eastern Aegean Sea, where you have an issue with Greece and Turkey, I think you mentioned recently that you're really concerned about the rhetoric over the maritime borders there.
We don't have an issue with Greece.
No, of course not, but I wouldn't say you had, but you're concerned about the escalation of this potential conflict.
Of course,
so what is the background to that?
If something happens in the Aegean, it may happen to Cyprus in all probability. But we hope that the international community who is watching this, the United States, with several statements, in the European Union with several statements, will leave this to the rhetoric and try to bring tension down between Turkey, Greece, and ourselves.
It is a factor, is it not, that you've got elections early next year in Turkey and in Greece. You've got your own elections here in February. Yeah. Does that just raise the whole temperature for all of these
well, as you know,
disputes?
with elections, it happens, or it may happen. So we shall have to be careful.
Yes, well, let's also look at the issue of Lebanon. This is an extraordinary development. Lebanon and Israel coming to an agreement. I mean, would have been unthinkable a few years back. Is there a chance, do you think, that this issue of energy and of making money, doing business, and also having an effect on the Ukraine crisis because of the power problem right across Europe, do you feel positive about this? Or are you worried about disputes because Libya could be involved with Turkey? There could be all sorts of problems in terms of rights.
Our priorities in a right sequence. First of all, an extremely helpful development, the agreement between Israel and Lebanon. Secondly, because you know our exclusive economic zone is adjacent to theirs. Secondly, the fact that two parties like Lebanon and Israel, who officially are in a state of war and who do not recognize each other, they have managed through the mediation of the United States, and I congratulate the United States for this, they have reached an agreement. This is a very good example for ourselves and Turkey. Turkey so far has refused that we do a similar kind of negotiation and arrangement in delimiting our respective exclusive economic zone. with the justification that they don't recognize us. But here is an example where this can be done without solution of the political problem so that they can recognize us. So we have offered talks. And if these talks fail, let's go to The Hague. And we are prepared to accept the arbitration of The Hague. Let me put the next priority. The next priority are the needs of our European partners on natural gas. And this has to come before other considerations. And this applies what I am saying both to Turkey and to ourselves.
And that, can you put a date on it? If everything was to remarkably work, could you put a date on when Europe would see a difference?
To get, you mean for the natural gas to arrive at its
extra
destination?
Gas to actually start reaching.
Well, I don't know, but in a couple of years it will. I'm not very specialist on this, but I feel that it's going to be a medium-term solution, not a short-term. And I realize that Europe needs badly for next winter. Well, next winter we cannot accommodate, but I hope for the winter after next we may be able to.
Well, the desperate need for energy in Europe links us to the next question I've got, and that is Ukraine. And what Cyprus is a fairly small place, but it's doing a lot. I mean, you used to be incredibly friendly with Russia, particularly on business. Now it's quite the reverse. So what sort of action have you taken?
I want to make it clear. We are very sensitive to the issues of territorial integrity, of sovereignty, inviolability of borders, and of course now to non-annexation of parts of a country to another. Therefore, we had to join our partners in the European Union in our response to the Russian invasion into Ukraine. We did it. We want to be acknowledged, and we are, as a credible and predictable partner to the European Union. We took part on the unanimous decisions regarding the sanctions, and we are implementing the sanctions diligently. You realize, as you have said in your question, that we had to come a long distance to reach this goal, much longer than any other of the partners who already didn't have the links we had with Russia. This demonstrates the dimension of our shift.
But it has had consequences already, and there'll probably be more from Russia. And you're taking your visas have been cancelled, but to tourists, and you've seen already Russia intent on possibly taking other action, and you're also stopping, I think, fueling of Russian ships as well.
We did it unilaterally, not in the context of the sanctions. Well, can you imagine a war? If somebody offers services to the navy of a country party to the war, it's like we are aiding and abetting.
Yeah.
So we did this. This opened the road for the lifting of the American embargo towards us, because we completed fully the terms. The one was this, and the other was the effective fight against money laundering, where we also get now good results.
Well, the geopolitics of it are quite interesting, because there's a shift, isn't there? I mean, the United States, just to get into this issue, the United States has lifted its arms embargo in the fiscal year of 2023. You're also, I understand, you have an agreement for Russian-made military vehicles and things.
We don't have such an agreement. Let us be sure.
Isn't there something going on there with Russian vehicles?
The only thing that there exists was our effort to improve the capacity of the National Guard to defend Cyprus. And because of the existing situation with Russia, a large number of our weapons are lacking maintenance, are lacking maintenance mainly to be operational. And this we shall have to remedy. But we are not
are you saying that there's no
weapons.
agreement with the US to actually get Russian military vehicles and other equipment into Ukraine in return for US equipment to replace them? That's the report. Is that a myth?
It didn't. Well, we were funded a year ago, but then they didn't want to. This didn't carry on further.
So Ukraine can't expect anything.
I repeat, we don't intend to send weapons to Ukraine because we need them here in Cyprus. But we need to upgrade and remedy to the issue of not having the possibility of maintenance for these weapons.
What sort of weapons are you going to get then from the US? Is it
defensive?
No, defensive. Now the embargo's been lifted.
Yeah.
What sort of military hardware are you looking for?
These questions I cannot answer. It's the Ministry of Defense who is dealing with this. I don't know what they are going to do, but they are going. Now they have the American markets as well as other markets like France, like Israel, to consider.
The Turkish are saying that this could be an escalation, there could be an arms race within Cyprus because of this, that it's a very bad move and it's very alarming.
Are they so afraid of us? Shame on them. A country so big, important, they say they are a big regional power. And for a few weapons that we will buy, I think they are looking for an excuse to bring more arms in Cyprus.
The allegiance, though, the allegiances that Cyprus has, I mean, if it was 10 years ago, would you ever have seen a position whereby Israel was a trading partner effectively, that Russia was no longer an ally as such, that the US would be much more influential on affairs? It's all changed, hasn't it?
Yes.
Are you looking for new friends still?
It did. We acquired new friends next to the previous ones.
How are things going with Israel?
Very well. Very well indeed.
But just looking at the situation with Israel and Lebanon having a deal on trade, I mean, it is utterly extraordinary. Does that not make you think, coming back to the start of our interview, about how you can resolve a conflict that goes back so many decades through so many generations?
All problems do get solutions, and ours will get as well. Our side remains faithful to the reunification of our country. The Lebanese and Israelis will never have this agreement without the involvement of the United States. We need some help from the international community, and in particular from countries that can work with Turkey because they have other areas where they need to work.
So give us your insight then on the geopolitics of this. Are you saying that when you say you need more help, you mean more diplomatic help? You need
Diplomatic, certainly.
Do you think the European Union should be doing more?
There is room for more.
And what do you mean by that? When you say, I mean, more in terms of diplomacy or in terms of active on-the-ground pushing of the actors?
Well, that's diplomacy.
You're a very experienced diplomat.
Okay.
So please put on the table what the solution through your eyes is, so let's say, in terms of a settlement in Cyprus.
I think that I can imagine a solution that it would be a win-win situation for all stakeholders, means the two communities in Cyprus, Turkey, Greece, and I think that there is a great possibility for this, provided that there is political will.
Foreign Minister of the Republic of Cyprus, Ioannis Kasoulides, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
This programme contacted the government of the self-declared Republic of Northern Cyprus in an attempt to bring our audience the voice of Turkish Cypriots. Our interview request was declined, but our invitation to talk to Al Jazeera remains.